Hey guys, welcome to CultTV. Today I'm chatting with Hill. This conversation is a long time coming. I've been following him. I don't even know. It's like one of them things where you just end up following somebody on Instagram and just like, oh, that's cool. Like, and you just keep following their life. And I've watched this man. I don't know, is it the proper term, slay an alligator? Like, I don't even know if it was a gator. It might have been a croc,
Oh
but
no, it was a gator for sure. It was a Georgia gator. Yep.
a Georgia gator. So I watched this man about 2 years back slay a gator. And as you know, I'm a city dweller. I'm called Classic. I'm your host. I forgot that, but I'm a city dweller, so that intrigued me. And given that we are dealing with a lot of issues of survival right now, people are rethinking the way that they're living, trying to live more sustainable
Mhm.
and just be a little bit more mindful. I thought he was a perfect person for us to talk to today. Um, Hill, like introduce yourself. Let
All
us
right.
know.
Name is I go by Hill. Hill Whitfield. Last name is Whitfield. First name is actually Hillary. No one believes that. Named after my dad, so I'm the second coming, I guess I should say. My roots are basically that pretty much from DC, Maryland area. Grew up mostly in Maryland, but spent a lot of summers down in Georgia, on my grandfather's farm. He has about 70 acres down in Dixie, Georgia, and so like pretty much my outdoor stuff started early because my dad grew up in that way. And so we were fishing and everything like that at like 4 or 5 years old. I didn't really value, I guess, all the information I was taught, you know what I'm saying, back then, the same way that I do now, because in those skill sets, I just thought it was normal everyday life. I didn't, think much until I came back. We were living Chesapeake Street in Southeast DC at the time. And parents didn't have much money, so they would send us down there instead of putting us in camp. And a lot of stuff that I learned when I came back for the second half of the summer, sharing stories with kids and neighborhood friends and everything. They're looking at me like I'm something something weird or something special. And I thought it was just normal everyday life, except for, of course, urban versus rural. It's a little different. So yeah. I dabble in a couple things. Let's see, I train canines, little canines, and that's with my actual company, Canine Pro Solutions, with a couple of my trainers, Des Lynch, Nick Tolson, Orbet, Blackmon. It's a whole list of people. James Guillory. I'm gonna make sure I tag them. It's at K9 Pro Solutions on Instagram, as well as my training club, which is comprised of a lot of our trainers there. We actually do competition and we also do protection work. I do get in the bite suit and get bit and everything like that with dogs and stuff like that. And that's Misfit K9. So you'll see that at Misfit K9 on Instagram as well. Outside of that, I'm into some of everything. We come from a family that grew. So, 70 acres, we definitely farm. So we farm here and there. Haven't done anything this year. I may do a thing of okra and some more stuff like that. Some things you can do locally and sustain right in your backyard, buckets, things of nature like that. We also do everything from, let's see, farming, hunting, fishing, firearms, firearm awareness and information, and just basic, I guess, day-to-day living and being able to sustain in the event or the midst that something would happen that kind of disrupt your normal run into the grocery store type thing. So we just keep abreast of all the things that were done before we were here to survive. And we just put them out of our pocket when needed. And those that are our favorite, that are somewhat hobbies, sometimes hustles, we keep up with those too. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, like that is amazing. Like I didn't realize, I knew that you went to Morehouse, but I didn't realize that you've always been in this back and forth, this in between like
Oh, yeah.
country life and city life or rural life, and being in a city like DC.
Oh, yeah.
So I think your perspective is like super unique when it comes to that. You talked about, and letting us know about your background and your origins in both DC and your summers in Georgia.
Mhm.
You talked about, um, having those two experiences and then coming back to DC and sharing that as
Oh,
you like went to Morehouse and did different things in metropolitan cities. What has that changed? Like, is the perception or is the feeling still like, oh wow, like you're
so
amazed by this
so
and I do this every day. I live this, or like,
yeah, I
what's
mean,
it
so
like?
that's kind of my life right now, and what it's always been for the most part. My family, like I said, my dad's side is from Georgia, my mom's side is from North Carolina. Um, Mom moved up here before, I guess, starting high school. Dad moved up here after he finished high school, and he went to Howard. And basically, they always kept us abreast of outdoors. Again, we had meager beginnings, so living in pretty much apartment in Southeast. That's nothing the way it was back then. We had a lot of time that we spent doing the free stuff. My dad was known for making, he was more so about, okay, I'm not caught in the material things, I'm caught in the moments and the memories. So like his idea was, of course, flying kites at the mall, going through all the free museums. There's an exhibit for this and that going on. I got a scholarship to the school of my choice in first grade from Merrill Lynch. And pretty much they were investing in the class of 2000. I graduated in 2000 from high school. And they said pretty much in first grade, it came to Henley Elementary in Chesapeake, off Chesapeake Street in Southeast Washington, D.C., among 10 other major cities. And they chose 30 students. They only chose places where the graduation rate was super low. And so with that, they had a tie with the Washington Urban League, as well as their program was called Scholarship Builders, which was funded by Merrill Lynch. Every year they had events and things going on that were like cultural based or whatnot. So my dad was the type of person who was free, then we're going. If you have friends in the neighborhood and there's free tickets, they're going too. So I can't go see the Nutcracker anymore because I've seen it 37,000 times because it was free, things of that nature. But we also kept abreast of the outdoor side. So we rode bikes frequently, of course, common stuff that a lot of people do in the metropolis area. But our mindset was always when we go driving or riding around, we see certain things. We see bodies of water. DC is definitely close and very, connected to lots of bodies of water. And I see a lot of people outside of our own race who partake in it. And we do partake in different things with the water, but we don't do exactly the same things that a lot of other folks do. And so we look at, okay, boom, there's fish. There's, I haven't done crabbing yet. I'm doing crabbing this year. Um, what we're planning to do is to do a trip. My boy, who's a captain, actually has a pontoon we just got, so we're redoing that. And eventually, we'll probably be able to do like charter trips and things of that nature. But our plan is to actually go out in the morning, drop crab pots to start crabbing, fish regular rod and reel through the day, come back, pull our pots, and actually cook and steam our crabs right on the boat. So that's our plan.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, so we're trying to offer that experience eventually, as well as camping and things of that nature. There's a lot of stuff in a lot of these major cities, especially like your Atlantas, your DC, and all that. There's a lot of options. There's parks, there's actual mountains and things of that nature that you can explore. But a lot of times we just think of what's the next, brunch or the next, no shot to this at all, but like next sundress and whiskey type vibe. I'm trying to see people and all that. But what I learned is a lot of the times my healing and actually dealing with a lot of things, especially my own personal stuff, 'cause I like to be like more of a problem solver, came from me being kind of solid, like in that solitary confinement type deal where, yeah, I had a goal. And even if I didn't go and actually take an animal that day, just going out there and unplugging for a moment. A lot of places I go may not have the best cell service. So it's good and bad in the sense that people can't reach you, but it's also good because you can't do that extra, scrolls and checking and say, oh, let me see if such and such update or somebody just went live. You know what I'm saying? You don't have that time. And that little unplug moment, that reset and that refresh, it kind of like I don't know what it does for everybody else, but for me, it's kind of like it's invigorating, kind of revives me and resets me. So I found myself moving from wanting to be more outdoorsy when I was younger, which I did when we our difference when going out and play on my grandparents' property was totally different than when we were in Southeast. So we went out and played. We were out catching snakes, lizards, frogs. We out there fishing. I caught a turtle. I'm out there catching bugs and digging for worms and grub to feed the turtle and stuff. So we learned about a circle of life rather early.
Mm.
I think I had a pet chicken at about 7 or so. Well, I had to tend to the chicken and the hogs in my granddad's land. I was young, but I had to go, when he went out, feed them and everything between. So I learned responsibility. But then I learned about the circle of life when we were in a swing set and grandma said she didn't want to drive to town. And I believe it was Frank, I named him. I'm on the swing set and she reaches down and grabs Frank's neck because she had her apron of food. And that was what we had for dinner that night. So I learned, and we had a discussion about the circle of life. We learned things a little different that way. But I sought, like everywhere I went, I sought some type of release or unplug. In Atlanta, when I first got there, my first initial wasn't really a major outdoor thing. It was more so like I used to go to Centennial Park off the late night when no one was there, sit out, flesh out whatever ideas I had. And when it was time to write a paper, sometimes I put my ideas together then, a good playlist. Right now, I'm rocking a good friend of mine, pretty much family, Maserati Black. He has a EP out right now, and that it's like grown man music for the most part. It's pretty great because of the maturation there. But I put that in and be out there laying corn, getting stuff ready, putting up game cams and stuff like that. So I still bring some of the urban stuff, but just enough of it that just kind of keeps me there. But when I go to outdoors, you might as well don't even call because life is happening. So yeah.
That's dope. So you just laid a lot on us. So a couple things that I'm hearing is that um there's education happening in outdoors. Like
Yeah.
I went into this conversation with you, like, oh, bet he's the man with the answers. Like he's got the survival skills. But what I'm hearing is that, you got like, you learned some coping skills, you
Oh,
learned, you were able to adjust to death,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
life cycle.
That that kind I lost in the last 2 years, well, 2.5 years now. Started off I lost my grandparents in a fire. I lost a total in, I think it was 18 months. I lost 13 people.
Mm,
And I went hard going outdoors pretty much. The thing that I learned about being out there in nature is um, nature is going to be itself, but we as humans find ways to be very disruptive a lot of the times. When going in the woods to actually start a hunt or forage or just a scout, when you walk in the woods, at first you may hear noise, you may see animals here and there, very few here and there, and they'll disappear and it goes dead quiet. It goes dead quiet because they're watching you. You're walking into their habitat, you're kind of disrupting them. And until you actually settle in, like especially when I'm doing like I pretty much climb trees and things of that nature when I'm hunting, stuff like that. So I got to explain that later. But
yeah,
when you settle in and you stop, you be quiet, you calm down, your breathing changes, everything else, whatever, like everything gets louder. I'm talking about everything, like the leaves, something moving the leaves. Squirrels sound like they are 200 pounds moving through leaves and everything. Everything gets louder. I don't know what it is. Your senses adapt. You go back almost primal. You start paying attention to things. You hear something, you're able to locate where it is. The animals then accept you in a sense because you're not a harm right now. You're just sitting there. They don't even think about you as much or what have you. And it kind of just reminds me of life a lot of the times. We go rushing into things and we kind of disrupt the feng shui without actually allowing it to be itself first, and then figuring out where you fit in with it and how saying to make it work for yourself. So that's some of the things I kind of picked up on. It's a lot. I mean, like I'm telling you, I'm plugging there sometimes, and I mean questions that I had. Pretty much I thought with no answer coming soon. I'm like, okay, wait, okay, bet. You know what? I'm gonna hit such and such, and then like the universe responds. So I do like the fact that you can find answers out there beyond just the survival side of things. The survival thing is definitely one. Most people think that hunting and going out in the woods is about getting that kill, that catch, and there is a thrill that comes with that. Things come to fruition, but honestly, you learn a whole lot more respect and about the work and also the balance. So,
yeah. Wow, like you set that up so lovely. Like I consider myself, a little bit into nature. Like I'll go to like a Great Falls, or I live around the corner from
nice.
Rock Creek Park. So I'll
Okay.
go there often, but I never really thought about like settling into the nature and
Oh
just
yeah.
experiencing it.
Oh yeah.
So thank you for that. I wanted to circle back to something you said about your childhood. So right now,
Okay.
a lot of parents are at home with their kids, and like you could do television all day, but it's a little bit difficult to arrange play dates. It's a little bit difficult to go to like a Chuck E. Cheese or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any off the top of your head, like things in the DC area that urban parents, limited funds that they can do just to like give the kids something else besides the iPad, or
Oh
whatever
yeah.
whatever's going
Oh
on?
yeah. So, I mean, of course, there's all the athletic type stuff, biking, skating, things of that nature. What I like to do, like my dad used to have us do, we used to take those trips way down to Georgia. We would drive, and initially it would be we go down the alphabets and find words, signs, tags that had whatever alphabet in them. So, removing that basic side of it, I would do everything from like an actual, pretty much a hunt, scavenger hunt type deal. We're
Hmm.
outside, and you're thinking, okay, say, boom, you find either using alphabets, using a theme, or what have you, something that kind of adheres to that, and you have that kid find those things. If you have access to a yard or anywhere, that's great. If not, you're in the inner city, then you start finding little ways of nitpicking how to make that work for yourself. It makes them more aware. That's one thing that my granddad did as I was young. We would drive around. They had dirt roads back then. They just paved this road probably a couple years ago. But you would drive around and he would stop or slow down and he'd say, you see that hawk right there, you see that whatever. And I'm just like, I'm riding unbeknownst to what's going on. I have candy in my pocket, everything else, but I'm good. But he started making me more aware of the outside and the surroundings. So I think that part of it is getting them out there, but also making them more aware. The scavenger hunt thing makes them more cognizant of what's around them, especially if it's in your vicinity right there by your house, and that's cool. That's one side of it. Like I said before, we did the kites outside. It's definitely windy right now for the most part. All these different types of cold front slash warmth coming in, circling. You know how DC is. So
Right.
it's perfect weather for kites right now. There's other things like fake picnics. You can do a fake picnic out back. I know some people are scared of bugs, so I get that. There's ways around that as well, but you use your imagination. Things that you do inside on the imagination side, even with playing with blocks, cars, everything, move it outdoors sometime. The reason why I say outdoors, I'm not saying you need to be bunched up on people, but somewhere that you can carve out if you can, and that's fine. I look and see what is available to you that's free per se, or what's out there. Everything from going out. I know they're probably not doing the paddle boats and things of that nature now, but taking walks where you're actually going to a different place, a different location. That's another thing that I would definitely strongly suggest. I'm trying to think what else that I do or I have done beyond that. There's toys all day, but the electronics are going to be there. Outdoors, it changes seasonally, and then of course with construction and things of that nature, places may not always be available. So I would say soak up as much as you can and think of all those things that you do indoors that you can possibly do outdoors, and just switch it out, switch your location. Different scenery helps reset, refresh, and go from there. So yeah.
Thank
What I'll
you.
do is if I can think of any more, I definitely send them to you the list so we can go from there too. So
Yeah, for sure. Thank you
yeah.
so much. That was a really good like I'm gonna actually do some of those things and
Yeah,
read.
go outside and eat. Go outside and eat one day. Set out, read, of course, things of that nature. Like there's so many things that we do inside. Even if you have to do the iPad thing, the iPod, I would suggest possibly going outside and doing it. It may be something that catches their attention. I know that a lot of kids like things, everything from airplanes or what have you. You see the airplanes. If it's nighttime, seeing as how it's less people out, a lot of these rural areas are getting less emissions and getting clearer nights. I don't know if you're paying attention as much, but you're able to see the stars. Download a star chart and go out there and start picking them out. My dad did that about 8 or 9 years old. He's like, "Oh, you see that? That's the Big Dipper. That's the North Star." He started explaining, and those things tied in later on because if I'm out at night and I'm actually dragging animal out of the woods at night, and if I know where the North Star is, if I lose my bearing, I can at least be okay. Boom, I was about such and such north, so I need to head kind of that direction. So it kind of helps out, laying the foundation.
Dope. As a quick plug, I want to say for parents that are looking for stargazing apps and constellation apps to help you track like what you can see around what time of year. Ready, Jet, Go
There
is
you
a
go.
great app from PBS Kids.
Nice.
Definitely use that one.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Plug
Yeah.
it up. I see you. Hey man.
So what made me really, start paying close attention to your journey on social media as an urban outdoorsman again was the gator story.
Mhm.
But are there any like what's your wildest wildlife story?
Ooh, let's see. My wildest. The Gator story is pretty interesting in a sense, because I actually that was my granddad's 90th birthday weekend. So we went down there for his 90th birthday. And what happened was essentially my aunt became mayor of the city that his grandparents used to work. Well, his grandparents used to work on a plantation at. And so on his 90th birthday, she actually made it his day. So it is actually Henry Whitfield Day now on his birthday in the city of which he was raised on the plantation for the most part. And granted, they weren't still slaves then, but he knew plantation life very well. So that day, he was telling me that he has two ponds, two multi-acre ponds on his property. And he was saying that he had about a good 6 foot gator that's becoming a little ornery. It's coming to the edge. Granddad's 90. He had a 15-year-old beagle. The actual gator would come towards the edge and everything. He said, "If you can take him, I don't know if you're a good shot." And I'm like, "You know, my dad taught me to shoot. I think we good here." So we actually saw him out on the bank. I didn't have the sweet spot shot. I don't know if you guys watch Swamp People, things like that, but like behind their eye, there's a little quarter size hole or at least opening in their skull for both sides of the head that you actually aim for. You can use a 22 if need be to dispatch. But I had my 308 with me, and the thing was, I was taking the kids, my little cousins and all, out to go fish. And we're going out to go fish, and it's this big, it turned out to be 7 foot 3 inches gator laid out on the bank, and he's like about 70 yards or so across the pond. And so I told him stop, stay at bay. I said, let's just see what he's doing. And I said, okay, he's sunbathing. He's not moving much. He's sunbathing. Definitely not going to walk over there. And I ended up having to take a shot from that distance. And I did somewhat dispatch him, but he made it to the water. And most people don't know that if a gator is injured or dying and it makes it to the water, if it goes to the bottom, the way their air system in their body is, they can actually stay until they pass and release the air. They can actually stay on the water and have already passed meat, spoiled, everything like that. By the time they float and make it to the top, it's it's a done deal pretty much. So shot him, he made it to the water. Then I went swamp people on him, had him had the trouble hooking the line. And I'm out there tossing out, trying to actually see if I can catch and hook him. And I had a little part of him and he came off, came back that evening, probably about an hour or so, maybe about 2 hours or so after we left for dinner for my granddad. And at nighttime, we had a big bonfire, and they said, "Well, let's go night fishing." I'm like, "Bring the rifle." Not going about it's about a quarter of a mile from the house. The pond is, at least on his property. So I'm not gonna go out there and need a rifle and have to run a quarter mile back to go get it. So I always take it with me. So took it with me out there, and he was on the bank. Took another shot. He didn't move. After I hit him, went over there, grabbed him, and pulled him off the bank. Um, but my one of my trying times was actually when I took my largest buck. Um, I was actually in Brandywine, Maryland.
Oh,
So, oh yeah, I don't. Most people don't know, but you have prime hunting right here near the DC metropolitan area, in the outskirts of Maryland, Virginia, things of that nature. So I was in Brandywine, and I actually had probably stalked or put out corn and everything else and fed this area for a good while. And a good buddy of mine came in town who's from here, and he hunted it straight for a whole week, and he had nothing worth taking for the most part. Um, I went there one day, took a day off. It was a sick day, so I took a day off. He had left town. I went out. I said, "Watch it be the day." Went out there, and I tell you, I saw nothing but young does and things of that nature all day. And lo and behold, last minute, I started to get tired, dozed off, sitting about 25 feet up in the air, strapped to a tree. You get your best sleep when you
so
hunt too.
you were strapped to the tree.
Yes. So I use a climbing
Some
stand.
wild stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I use a climbing stand. It's basically two parts or two pieces, and you wrap the strap around the tree, and it uses pretty much physics. Because when you're digging into the actual tree, with the top portion of it, the strap holds on. The bottom teeth kind of help keep with weight of your weight, whatever, pushing on it. So technically, you can fall out of it. There is a harness that you can put on eventually. I don't put it on until I'm about halfway up, about 12, 13 feet up, and then go from there. But strap to the tree, fall asleep. um, I have a harness on that pretty much holds me in, and there's a strap that you put around the tree. So if you fall, you don't really fall abruptly. It kind of
Yeah,
rips
like
slowly and surely. Exactly. So I'm on there. I fall asleep for 15 minutes, and I wake up, and I almost forget that I'm in a tree. So I wake up, and my rifle is across my lap, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I look down, my feet are dangling. I'm like, "Oh shit!" I'm glad I didn't move to the left or the right, because then I would have fell off the chair and definitely would have been hanging and had to cut myself down and/or hope that I could reach someone. So I noticed actually some tines. I mean, pretty much some antlers or whatever coming from behind a tree about 60, 70 yards out. And initially I thought it was just a branch moving because of a lot of wind. A large buck coming, one of the most largest bucks that ever came through while I was out actually hunting, not just out, but out hunting.
right.
And the thing that you can't explain when you're out there hunting, especially bucks and deer, there's something called buck fever. And buck fever is extremely real. It's a condition of sorts that you don't know how your body's going to react when you actually get to that point where you're either going to take the animal, or it's the animal that you've been wanting to take, or at least a caliber animal that you want to take. And your body, you just don't know what's going to happen. So what happened with me was it takes you a while. Deer are smart. They can see. They definitely can smell. They will smell you way beforehand. I had the right wind. The wind was blowing from him towards me, so therefore I'm getting more of his instead of my scent blowing towards him.
Mhm.
No matter how much you mask, they still can smell you for the most part, as whether or not it's a tolerable amount or something that's at least a little bit more strong in that area, like pretty much doe urine or something like that. So I'm in the tree. I'm waiting. I'm slowly moving my rifle to try to get to pointing in his direction. I still have to shoulder it. And he's moving slowly. He's coming in. He's coming out. So, oh, please don't leave. Please don't leave. I'm lining it up. And when I finally get a chance to get my shot, my body goes to almost convulsing. And you can't control it. You don't know what's going to happen. I'm sitting there. I finally lined up. I look through the scope. The crosshairs are on him. And my body goes,
No.
start shaking. I'm like, no. I'm sitting there clenching my teeth, like, no, 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 no. So I take about a good 30 seconds, 40 seconds of me breathing super slow in and out. And I mean, it's almost like meditation in a sense. You got to calm your
Yes.
body. You have to mind over matter this shit, or you will take a poor shot. And the worst thing you can do is take a bad shot and actually injure an animal and not take them humanely. So I took my time, took my time. He finally presented a shot. I calmed myself. I took the shot, and he jumps up and he takes off running. And I mean, I freak out. I have a video that I did post. I'll link you to it, whatever my
Yeah.
reaction. And I'm literally shaking. I shook. And you have to wait about 30 minutes to an hour before you go claim an animal because you don't want to put them in shock if they are still passing and they don't have, you know what I'm saying, they haven't passed as fast as you want them to. Adrenaline will kick in and they will run off.
Yeah.
A wounded animal will survival. You know, that's when you see the most primal fight or flight. If it's not in a position to fight, it's gone. So you take your time, respect to the animal, always, pay respects and grateful for what it is because I do use anything that I take. I'm not out there just killing to kill. So when I do take something that's processed, I do everything from steaks, jerky, starting up sausage now. I've done egg rolls, things of that nature. Um, I've done jalapeno poppers, chili, you name it, damn near. And it all gets great reviews for the most part because our family, we were taught to cook before we leave the house. So before you 15, 16, you know how to cook. I ain't just talking noodles either. So we cook well. With that, I had to drag him about 300 yards out the woods. So I'm 3 football field lengths into the woods. This deer's about 200 something pounds. I myself am about 205, and I'm dragging him down an embankment, across a creek, up a hill, through a briar patch, all type of stuff like that to get him to my truck and still have to lug and put him in the back of the truck.
Right.
And so, although I'm small in stature for the most part, there's pretty much like my granddad had back in the day. He was small, but he was strong as hell because of the things he did daily, day in, day out. But that story right there, I ended up twisting my wrist at one point, having to wear a brace because his antlers got caught on something, and I tried to pull it, and something popped, but my adrenaline was still there, so I didn't feel it until I started driving. I tried to turn. It was a lot. But building up to that, the thing that gets you is not just the animal in the crosshair; it's the work and all the effort, all the work and effort you do beforehand. It's the paying respect and knowing that you don't take just anything. You actually are conserving. You're looking for older, mature, maybe not non-reproducing one, or even an injured one. You take something like that before just taking anything that comes in your screen. So yeah, it was a lot. It took a lot to mentally just process to slow things down. It was almost like on video games on some Matrix type stuff. You had to slow it down and get my heart rate under control and also get the jitters out before I took that shot because otherwise I wouldn't. So that was pretty great, pretty
That's okay.
wild.
Both of those stories, like, just show me like patience. Like when we speaking of video games, like when we play video games, like it's just like it happens instantly, or
Oh yeah.
like they might put you in a gauge or something like that, or like they're crossing
Uh-huh.
something and then boom and that's it. But these both of these scenarios, like I feel like one of them took like a day, like the gator took the day, and then
It
the
took a good
bug
part.
was like, if you really think about it, like a week in the making, like having to.
Oh, it was actually a couple months before then. I had sat that spot a couple times each week, and I just wasn't seeing anything. I was like, well, I'm gonna have to rotate to my other spots. I need to go check these spots, check game cameras and all that. It really is. There's a passion for it for the most
Yeah.
part. It's work. So,
I also like that you walked us through the emotions too,
oh
because
yeah,
we think of something like we think of the shot, like
hmm,
most city people like me, like we think of the shot, like, oh, that's fast, like,
there. Oh nah,
it's a rapid
yeah.
thing, but there's a whole like
Oh, it's a
there's
build
a
up.
whole relationship that's happening with
Mm-hmm.
you and the target.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right?
And I mean, it's also trusting that your equipment is actually on par too. Like you zero in your actual rifle, meaning that you get it to the point where wherever you point that dot at a certain distance, it's accurate, and at a further distance, you know that it's going to drop. So you raise it a little bit. You have to be confident in that. But then you're traveling into the woods. You have it strapped on you. For me personally, I'm carrying in 50 to 100 pounds of corn on my shoulder as well. I'm carrying my my rifle and any other gear that I need or whatnot. 9 times out of 10, I've already put my chair in the woods, which is fine. My actual climbing stand and all that. So that helps. But if not, if it's the first point of the season of hunting, you're carrying that in too. You're carrying in several pounds of stuff, a couple hundred yards deep into the woods, and you're going out there to lay everything out. And after all that blood rushing and heart rate and all, putting all that stuff, walking around and all that, you got to go sit, be still, be quiet. And if it's cold, the more you sit still, the colder your body gets. So I mean, I've sat in sleeting snow at 17 degrees and came out the woods with something to feed the family, to feed the dogs, everything else in between. Most of my kills go to more than just one household. So I'm doing everything from the dogs that I work with, the folks that feed raw, I'm feeding them fresh as well. So yeah, it all varies for the most part who it goes to and what, but the process is still the same. It's work. It's definitely something you build up to. No different than anything else that you work hard for. You wait to that point where you feel like, okay, boom, I have arrived, I've done it, and it's not always from the kill. It's more so just getting to that point of being able, even if you just saw something that was, worth taking, but you didn't take it that day because the shot wasn't there or it was too dark or what have you. Getting to that point is huge. It lets you know that you are doing everything that's not for naught. So
Right. Yeah. Um,
sorry about that phone.
no, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so we are currently in the midst of a crisis, and
Yes.
it looks like even if one crisis clears up, we'll be faced with an economic one.
Oh yeah.
Not now. It's pretty much happening now, but
Oh yeah.
it's expected to worsen and to be one of the worst historically. So everybody's getting a little bit nutty.
Hmm.
What are your top 5 recommendations for survival? And what I mean by that is hunting, sustainable cooking,
Okay.
firearms. Like, what are your top 5
Okay.
recommendations
Okay.
for just a national emergency?
So I'm not a prepper. I have stolen some ideas from preppers though. A lot of the stuff that preppers get, a lot of folks have been doing on farms and farm life for the longest. My granddad's property
Sorry,
is
I just wanted to
good.
because some people are like myself, new to this. So a prepper would be like people that do
Okay, I can break it down.
preparations
Yeah,
for
so
like a living.
a prepper is someone who goes, I mean, they kind of pretty much go to the extreme and they anticipate some type of societal fall and or, networks and things going down. And so they do a little bit more extreme preparation for it. I hate to use the word preparation and prepper, but they use a little bit more, I guess, more mindset and trying to forecast what they would do. I've seen folks go as far as change one of their pools, their swimming pools in their property to being a locally sustained pond slash ecosystem in which the actual pond, I mean, the actual pool will have fish in it. It will have plants, and then the plants, actual was it excrement and things, would be the nutrients that would help whatever plants were growing in there. They had a dome over it where the water would, the condensation would be what would help actually water the plants when they couldn't water it. It was like a greenhouse effect with its own ecosystem inside of it, and they're looking to sustain outside of using the grid or anything of that nature.
Mhm.
Um, and that's close to country life for those who are in super rural areas. Like I was saying, my grandfather's 70 acres in Dixie, Georgia. They just paved this road not long ago. His nearest neighbor is maybe a half a mile or so away. And his next nearest neighbor after that is at least a mile or so away. They do have 911 now, but when I was going there when I was younger, they didn't really have 911. It was more so they had a county sheriff in the next town over, which was 15, 16 minutes away. And then the major city was Valdosta, Georgia, and that was about 30 or so minutes away. So you had to either make it to Moody Air Force Base for a hospital visit or something like that. So a lot of the things that we did then are what you should be doing now is you keep your first aid kits on deck. And I'm not just talking about your giant or your whatever Target little small kit. You do your regular small kit, band-aids, things of that nature like that. But you also want to have stuff for if there's any type of trauma. Um, um, some people don't know, how to use tourniquets. That's one thing that's very, very important. If you injure yourself and it be bleeding, quote unquote, bleeding out, you want to be able to stop that. So you want to have something that cuts that off. Learn to either use a belt and or tourniquet. So definitely a first aid kit would be one major thing. And that's just for, I guess, continuing surviving. I do believe in firearms and the Second Amendment. I do find that a lot of people of color find it to be taboo, especially folks from urban areas. It does have a stigma. I do get a lot of stereotypes when I go into some of these stores, even in my camo and everything like that. And even in the firearm stores, in my regular day-to-day clothing. I mean, it doesn't matter what I have on, it's assumed certain things until I open my mouth. Like right now, I have no problem, I'm saying, enunciating. Of course, with my friends, it's a little different, a little bit more colloquialism. So it is what it is. But in the long run, you want to have a firearm or some type of equal force multiplier. If it's not a firearm, then it needs to be some type of blade or something that you're actually proficient with to protect yourself, not just from other people, but maybe other threats. Should you need to be in a position where you're going somewhere and it's not as safe, whether it be animal and or human, you want to have something that kind of gets you closer to even in the odds. It's great to have hand-to-hand combat and all that stuff like that skills. Most people assume that their hands are that lethal, but in a situation where someone is like fighting for survival and
Right.
you're just fighting to actually, make it through the situation, you don't know to what length, somebody would go. I'm not saying that it's going to get to that point, but you just got to have a mindset that if it did, that you're not in a position of need because you already have what you need. So firearms are huge. The firearms that I would choose for most people are usually the ones that the media did not like because of the ease of use. Um, I'm all for pistols and things of that nature, but I do stress that if you have a firearm, it's no different than your knife in the kitchen, your your easy bake oven when you're a kid. You gotta learn how to use it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, you have to actually go out there and get familiar with it, because when it's time to use it, and if you have an issue or some type of malfunction, or even if you don't know what you're doing with it, and you get to that point you need it and you can't use it, it can be taken away from you. So you do want to have some form of protection. I do favor like the AR-15 platform, only because I've used it for everything from hunting to personal protection, actual sport shooting, things of that nature as well. But if you don't have, I guess, if you have somewhat of I guess, a issue with that platform, then maybe a shotgun or things of that nature. But you want to get familiar with those things. Have those things handy. I think if a situation were to occur at your home, how would I get access to it? You know, what is my plan? You know, just it's kind of having that planning thing in your head. Okay,
Right.
worst case scenario, you want to have a bug out bag. A bug out bag, usually called BOB or Bob. Bug out bag pretty much has some of those main essentials that are super small. Like, you have a mini kit for first aid. You have maybe a couple non-perishable snacks in there.
Mhm.
I now, you know what I'm saying, ride around with a small little bug out bag, just because I don't know what area may be shut down at one point or another, or if I'm in a violation of this, or I have to stay here a little bit longer. So I do everything from preserve food as well, through like jerky, dehydration, canning is huge. All these things have been done way back in the day, and we kind of moved away from it because we can have things readily available. We go to the nearest store and it's there. I started thinking beyond that to say, like, okay, boom, what's the freezer? I have more than one freezer. The freezer stocked. I have one for like wild game and things of that nature, fish, all that stuff like that. And then I have my regular freezer, which may have anything to some type of stir fry bag and that thing. So it all
Right.
depends. You want to kind of have an idea what will last you. A What skill sets do you need to acquire that you may not have that'll last you? So much stuff is online, Pinterest, YouTube, things of that nature. Canning is huge. Even with the vegetables, a lot of people buy vegetables and they buy them already bagged and everything like that. You can go and buy, if it's cheaper, you can go buy fresh vegetables and blanch it, which is to actually use hot water and kind of do a quick hot bath, whatever. And then there's an ice bath after that, and you can put that in a baggie, whatever, and freeze it, and it'll be pretty much damn near as fresh as when you got it the day that you had it.
Mhm.
So those are things that are protected on the long haul. So you start thinking, like, what can I do that'll kind of sustain me for longevity, not just right now? Great. It's great that you can go buy your box of honey buns right now, but should it come to a point where you needed to actually make your own bread with the most minimal things, yeast, what I'm saying, flour, water,
Mm.
baby sugar, I mean, those are small things. Like right now, you have a little bit of time. You can go ahead and get your grands muffins and pop them in, and still go back and practice, making bread and stuff like that, those small things. Those things don't seem like, super huge. But I know in the first wave of this whole shutdown stuff, I have a card for Restaurant Depot and things of that nature. And I saw what everyone was picking up. I saw the different items. A lot of things people were getting were definitely perishable items, and a lot of things people were avoiding were things like your vitamins and all stuff like that. And I was like, okay, boom. I said, so if you come into a situation where you can't go to the hospital, or you have an issue where you have a headache or something crazy, and it's kind of massive, do you really want to risk going somewhere that may be contaminated and infected? Or if it's a possibility that we have a major issue where we have either a cyber attack and everything's electronic and digital, how will you actually communicate, or what will you be able to do in the event that you need to actually rely on yourself? So to run it down again, I definitely say first aid kit, some type of weapon or firearm would definitely be something I would get. Even if it's a bow, I've gotten into bow the last couple of years. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a little bit more difficult and challenging, but I like the challenge of it. I'm learning a lot about that as well. There is also figuring out the way how to change things from being perishable to non-perishable. Um, like I said, canning, freezing, dehydrating, things of that nature. And I'm trying to think, what other thing would I consider? Oh, like I said, communication. So we moved to the digital era heavily. We pretty much disavowed everything that's analog, but ham radio is still a very viable option. Should we have a cyber attack of sorts and all these networks go down, your internet and everything like that, if you have a radio which you can find a way to charge, another thing is a generator. I definitely have like a generator, just
Right.
because. But find a way to charge. Ham radio will still be very operable. You'll still be able to use that and making signals and actually calling people, things of that nature. So a couple of my friends have bought in. Bought mine as well not too long ago. So I'm trying to get my certification for it. You do need a certification for the ham radio side. My go-to is a brand called BioFang, and it's BAO space FENG. And you can find those on Amazon all day. I lean towards the Mirkit, MIRKIT models for the most part. You can update them. They're pretty much a small little walkie-talkie, but it has ham radio capabilities.
Right.
The one that I do have, it does everything from your regular radio stations you can listen to. You can do a walkie-talkie where you're actually talking to whoever's on the channel, or you can switch to the ham radio when you're on certain frequencies. So it does some of everything with that one. And I keep it with me in my vehicle. So in the event that cell phones go down, I was in school during 9/11, and I was calling here like crazy. I called a couple of people I can call near locally. Everything, my phone was jammed.
Right.
When we had the earthquake, I was working at USDA downtown by the wharf. We had the earthquake here in DC, and um, trying to make it out of DC took me 2.5 hours. I didn't have a planned emergency route per se, or back roads that I can think of. I've been using
Ooh.
GPS, and I couldn't communicate. So because I couldn't communicate, I was like, I gotta figure out another option because everyone's on the digital side. Let me find another option. And then some of my old friends was like, hey, get a damn ham radio. I was like, all right, bet. So this spurred me to do it, and those probably the main things I would consider. You also want to consider places that you would want to be, and secondary places as well. Should you need to make it to somewhere else, where would you want to be, and what are the resources near there? So those would be the things I would consider for sure.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just know, like, you just brought up a lot, like the different little mini catastrophes that we've had and lived through leading up to this,
Oh
and
yeah.
like how that's really shaped us and what we need to be thinking about. This also, like, I'm going to be writing these notes down for myself as well, because I remember, like, when all this went down,
Uh huh.
like, you're talking about like bug fever. Like, I was in Walmart having Walmart fever. Like, I need everything. Like, I don't even know. And I'm not even
Right.
that kind of person, but it was
Right.
just
Right.
like, I went in there like, I'm gonna just get 5 things. It's just me. But then I saw like people, you know,
Mm-hmm.
packing their cars. So it was like, well, maybe I'm not.
Raise demand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because
then I just,
the unknown. You don't know when it's gonna stop, when it's gonna be over, and then you don't know supply wise. If things got super bad and they shut down states, and then they start limiting the actual transportation and what's been shipped, then if things move to a slower pace, then when it's there, it's there. When it's not, it's not. So my family has always stockpiled certain things, but not to the point of hoarding or anything like that. But we always have extras. If I buy one, if I need soap, I'm not gonna go buy one. Say a tube or Dove or something like that. I'm gonna buy, like, if I can get a 3-pack or a two plus you get one for free, then I'm gonna do that. And I'm stashing so that way I'm at least prepared. And you start thinking rationally, like, how can I ration? Like, and then also for this situation, you start thinking, well, how can I clean certain things? And so I have posted that people didn't know that there's Lysol concentrate, that you can dilute. And
Mhm.
the thing makes, I think it said something like 30 gallons of this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Get that. I'll take up less space. You know what I mean? Because you got to be able to organize. People don't know. I had someone blow me up. I can't find anything to clean. I went to the same store they went to. I said, there's a whole section of ammonia. There's a whole section, like, say you can use ammonia, lemon, all types of things to make cleansers, and you'll be just fine. But we get so, used to our things that we're kind of spoon fed and we see often. When they're not available, we kind of figure out, like, well, what do I do type deal. But there's options. Just think, what's your secondary options? Okay, they don't have this, so let me get this. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
Um, So you have lived in both urban and rural areas, and I feel like you're still between both worlds. It seems
Mm-hmm.
like, right? Yes. So what are some ways that people in metropolitan areas can keep their survival skills sharp? Because what I feel like is going to happen is that
Mm-hmm.
we're going to move past this threat, and we're going to survive the economic crisis, and then we're
Mm-hmm.
going to be back at square one in terms of like what we know and the way that we use things. So what are some ways that you can like stay tip top if that's not your interest and that's
So
not your normal
Oh
life?
yeah. Oh yeah. So what I would say is, if you're used to being able to walk out your door and turn the corner and there's a corner store and everything's for you, start figuring out ways and just do this incrementally, randomly sometime. Like this week, either I'm gonna do without this, or I'm gonna find another way, what I'm saying, to actually either fill in the gap for this or what have you. So you start getting used to not having certain things and figuring out what your alternatives are. For your outdoor stuff, start doing like at least, once a month, maybe at least 3 or 4 times every quarterly out of the year, where you go somewhere else that's a little bit more rural, a little less, what I'm saying, concrete junglish. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're not kind of confined to knowing that, okay, this is where I live, I'm in this unit, this is my vicinity, and then that's pretty much it. Going outdoors, like I said, doing certain things that you normally do indoors is one first step. The third step to that is actually doing things that you normally wouldn't do. Find something new. If you have someone that's highly into, either it be boating, fishing, or whatever, start trying to actually go out with them sometime.
Mhm.
Offer to help. A lot of times, you make a lot of rapport with outdoorsmen just being there and being an extra helping hand. The dude that I actually fish with, dude's name's Jesse Pape. He's been fishing, commercial fishing for God knows how long. I'm saying decades or whatnot for the most part. And he saw me and my boys from dog training. We left dog training. I took my little John boat, the back of my truck, 14-foot John boat, loaded it up. We went to go fishing. He saw us pull up, pull it off the back and everything, boat, all of us carry it and go put it in the water and all that. And he stopped. He was like, "Hey, you guys need a trailer." I said, "Yeah, one day, I get one." Right now, what I'm saying, that's not in the books. One day I get one. So if you need one, take my number, hit me up tomorrow. He said, "I got one you can have," that I started out with myself. I started out just like you guys did. Now, John boats and all that stuff like that down Georgia, you throw them in the back of the truck, you pull them out, you hop in it, keep moving. Up here, people got motors, all type of stuff. No one's paddling, anything like that. So you got extra gear, makes it heavier. So a trailer is very feasible. But this dude out the blue offered me a free trailer for my boat just because he said he started there, he knew where it was, whatever. And this dude was a white guy, cool dude. Not saying it was weird for a white guy to do that, but he didn't know me from anybody. But he
Right.
saw the passion was there. We're out there to go night fishing or evening fishing. A little John boat, I'm saying, this creek out here, and we're launching this heavy ass boat. And so he looked out. So try to like extend yourself. From then on, he took me out to go boat fishing with him. I learned how to fish with a boat, which changed my life as well because I added another skill set. Just start adding certain skill sets. It, it's as simple as going out, saying, if you have a place that you can actually start, maybe even a grill, try to start a fire and learn how to start fires without actually using matches for once. Like those small things like that may not sound, paramount, but in the event you don't have a lighter, you can't go to the store to buy a box of matches or something like that. What are you gonna do? You got an electric stove, you know what I mean? Like you may not be able to start that fire you want. So it's just little things like that I would start picking off. If you don't know how to fish, there are a lot of different programs and things you can get into. Go to a pier. Go to a Walmart, buy you a rod, get a basic rod set up, whatever. It don't have to be nothing fancy. The most simple setup that you can actually deal with. Talk to an associate if you can there. Go out to a pier. Most outdoorsmen in some way, shape, or form are giving for the most part.
Yeah.
They are actually passionate. They like the fact that they see other folks doing things or trying to do things. And so they'll actually lend a hand to help out. Not always the case, but most cases that's what it is, unless it's a selfish fisherman. I don't really like to tell you where they catch their fish at. So there's that. But otherwise, you want to actually try to like extend yourself. Find these little things that may interest you. Turn on the outdoor channel sometimes. See what's on there, whatnot.
Mhm.
Discovery. All these little small things, you start finding things that pique your interest. And some may overlap with what you're into, but in a different way. I know people that were into photography and all that, and they were taking pictures of people in studios left and right. I told them to get outside more, actually go to events, go to sporting events, go to, people, dog parks. And you start to kind of like hone in on certain things and skill sets. Okay, boom, my eye is a little bit better now because I've used more targets. I've tried, to kind of diversify what I'm using and what my actual muse is. So that goes for everything from your regular day-to-day life to your outdoor stuff. Like I could have stopped at just fishing because my dad fishes heavy. He hunts, but he doesn't hunt the way that I hunt. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't hunt the type of game that I hunt. He doesn't put the time in, especially up here. He's up here as well. So but he fishes every other day. You know what I'm saying? Like with no worries. He fishes every season. It doesn't matter, snow, whatever. He still knows where to go, what's biting, and we pay attention to those things. When I said something about paying attention to the stars and all that, my dad, when he fishes, he thinks about what the barometric pressure is that day. He looks at the precipitation. You know what I'm saying? He looks at, okay, what's actually spawning right now, and he looks at all those little things. And it's pretty similar to hunting at the same time. So when you're actually going out to have a great day, start looking at little small things, like those little things on the news that tell you about the temperature. Don't just look, okay, it's gonna be sunny. Okay, bet I can wear shorts. Look at all the
Right.
other things and how it affects. Oh, this moon means it's gonna be more light at night. Okay, bet a full moon. On a full moon, I can hunt way later than I could. You know what I'm saying? Especially if I'm doing like predator game, I can hunt way longer because that light is totally different. I'm not gonna say the vibe is different. I'm not gonna get to all the astrology of it, but
Right.
that moonlight, it's a little different. Animals sometimes act different then as well. You start paying attention to things when you start looking at it beyond just the surface or just my day-to-day normal, monotonous type stuff. So to
Yeah.
do more outdoor stuff daily means to actually make an effort to replace something that you normally do digitally with something a little more hands-on and analog, or just the research portion of it and going from there. So
Mhm. Thank you for
Man,
this.
no worries. No
Like,
worries.
these are all, I love that, one, like I knew that this was going to be a great conversation, but I'm getting like so much more than I even anticipated with just even like
That's
how
dope.
you approach it. Like I feel like the hunting and the survival, it all starts in your head first, but then there's
Oh
also
yeah.
this, the second layer is the community aspect.
Oh
Like you
yeah.
talked about, like with your grandfather and your aunt and everything,
hmm
like there's a community there, and then like
Oh
the
yeah.
relationship with other outdoorsmen and using that to build and to sharpen your survival skills.
For sure.
Yeah, like this is
Yeah.
like a deep dive that I personally rarely get to see because I'm not like a, I casually enjoy nature. I'm not like a nature enthusiast. So thank you for this.
Yeah.
Um,
No worries.
so I did some digging. I found a quiz. I took the quiz. I
Okay.
don't know the answers, but I know that you know.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you the question and I'm going to read the different options, and
Okay.
I want you to let us know um, what the correct option is. The
Gotcha.
scenario is you're hunting an elk and you
hmm
notice you're a little lost and the sun is setting and
Okay.
the temperatures are dropping. Can you survive? I know you know the answer is yes, but we want to get
I
into
think
some
so.
specific
Let's
questions.
get it.
Yeah.
It's funny that you put this out here because I have friends that was trying to get me to do like Naked and Afraid and some more stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, I don't think they're ready for that. Like, so this ain't too off, you know what I mean? So okay, let's go. Let's get it.
All right. Okay. So you become aware that you have lost your bearings. Your first step is to A, stop walking and immediately make camp. B, follow the nearest watercourse in a downstream direction. C, gain a ridgetop for a vantage. Or D, mark your position and try to navigate back to the first place that seemed familiar.
So I've been in this situation before. I was actually tracking a deer, and I was following the blood trail and everything like that, and then it like just stopped and disappeared. So I started looking and looking further around, and I got lost. At night, things look different than in the day. So you have to actually try to go back to where a familiar spot was. I definitely mark a hunter trick that I have, which is a little different than the elk country, but a hunter trick that I have is that there's these little thumbtacks that have at the tip of the thumbtack actual reflective like material, and so what you do is going into the woods, you may put, you know what I'm saying, either one color or one side of the tree, you know what I'm saying, the reflective joints. And then on the way out, you do another one. And usually you do that during the day. Now, when you're doing a hunt for an elk, it's no telling where you're going to go. You're going to be tracking and actually following and looking for signs just to get as close as possible. So yeah, you definitely want to track back to the nearest spot that you remember. But I do want to say that if it's getting dark and it's getting cool, you also want to take an account as you're going back. Should I need to hunker down? What areas are closer to, this familiar area, or at least that I can remember that maybe either some type of like shelter or at least the best protected places you can be in case there are predators. So
Okay. All right. So you're definitely lost and it's
yeah.
getting dark. Which camping spot will be the warmest when the sun goes down? A forested south slope. B, a forested north slope. C, an open south slope. Or D, a creek bottom.
It would be the north slope, the wooded north slope. Um, and that's basically because some of those other places, like the actual temperature and all these different variables can be a little bit more affected in those areas. So you just gotta be a little bit more cognizant. Like for one, sometimes it's cooler near water. In the open space, you don't have the actual tree line to help if there's wind. And wind could be a major thing. Like that's one thing. When I'm in the trees, everything is cool until I start feeling that wind blow. Like it'd be cold, but I have the gear on that sustain me for the most part. And that's one other thing too. I learned that I wear way more camo, not because I'm a hunter and everything like that. A lot of the hunting gear has been a whole lot more affordable, a whole lot more suitable, durable, and everything in between. So there's ways, to counter that. But the best option would probably be somewhere in the north. That way, it'll be a little bit more, I guess, more stable. So
Okay. All right. All right, so you've been lost for hours and you're growing hungry and weak. You're spending the night without a fire, and in your pack you have an energy bar, an apple, and a stick of salami. What should you eat first? A, the energy bar, B, the apple, or C, the salami?
In that event, I would probably do the actual energy bar in that one. The reason why you do the energy bar is you may be slightly fatigued and all that, but there's a chance that you've already had something that sustained you earlier. You don't know how long you'll be there, so the sustenance portions and things that you get from the apple and the actual was it salami and all that protein in the meat and all that. Um, it may not that would be way more beneficial in the event that you really are, you know what I'm saying, to the point of starving or something like that, and you really need some sustenance to keep going. The energy drink will help you because again, you've had a long day, you're tired, fatigue. Energy drink may help you do little small tasks you may need to do and to go to the next level, whatever your next contingency plan is. So I would do the energy first. That way, anything with sustenance that may need to be put in the tank for either hiking later or whatever it is I need to do foraging, I'll have that later because that'll actually give me something to hold on to versus the energy drink just give me that temporary boost to get whatever I need to get done at the time. So, yeah.
Okay. The temperature drops and you have nothing left in your day pack to put on. What is the lightest weight garment that you could have worn that would significantly conserve the heat that your body generates? The options are A, a down vest, B, a wind shirt, and C, a wool union suit.
So that is another thing that I've actually encountered. And I find that a lot of the hunting gear aren't these big down like coats and things of that nature. Even the ones for the colder areas, they're usually compressed, smaller, thinner, whatever, closer to the body. And something like a windbreaker is designed to keep water out and everything, and also keep most times water, but also keeps the wind from cutting in. So that's tightly woven, tight knit type stuff, or it has layers, sometimes even like a thin mylar layer on the inside. Those things will keep your heat in. And anytime the heat is like actually leaving your body in that, it kind of almost like an oven that just continually, radiates until it has an opening or something. Sometimes you'll feel the heat coming out from under your creases, your jacket, like under your sleeve. Even if you move your arm, you'll feel them come out, the heat coming out. And that's how you can tell that it's doing what it's supposed to do. So a lot of my layers that I would put on would be super thin for the most part, but they'll have that extra protection. They're tightly woven, waterproof and everything like that. And I'll get hot in them sometimes. Like it's times where I hike into the woods and I'm like, okay, I know every animal smells because I'm sweating right now. Like done. So yeah, I would go with that one.
Okay. So last one, you made it through the night, but you're still lost. You have to make a decision. Should you stay where you are, signal for help, and wait for a rescue, or try to hike to safety? The answer to this depends on which of the following factors. A, the likelihood of you being missed and searched for. B, your knowledge of the surrounding area. C, the ruggedness of the terrain. D, your level of survival skills. Or E, impending changes in the weather.
So I went through each one of those things in my head, and honestly, like they all play. Like it's kind of like it's all of them. Maybe some are ranked a little bit, before the other, but that whole notion of someone's looking for you is one thing. Some of my folks know where I hunt. They don't know exactly where, but I believe in the event that I'm stranded for the most part, I understand this is in elk country, totally different. They do have flyovers and things of that nature because 9 times out of 10 they're guided hunts unless it's your own private land, upon which you should have other protections and things kind of put in place. But for the most part, if I'm stuck out there, all those things play a heavy, role in, whether I either keep moving or stay put and, signal for help or anything like that. So any one of those can change, a combination of certain ones can change. So I would say any and all of those would definitely help determine that. So yeah.
All right. So we got our tips. We got a breakdown of like how hunting really is. We have what to do in these little common hunting scenarios or common survival scenarios, and we know where we can reach you.
There we go.
Thank you for having a conversation with me.
Thank you for even thinking about me. The whole time I thought my little private page was just, well, not private, but my little page was just tucked off in the cut. But I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
We watching. We want.
It's a wrap, you guys. Hill offers hunting and survival consultations and classes. You can catch him at Urban Outdoorsman 1650 on Instagram to learn more. And as for me, I'm Cult Classic. I'm your host, and you can follow me at CultClassic. And you can also catch updates on these episodes at CultTV on all platforms.